Okay, it is 6:04, and as I said, we'd get started. So, hello everyone, welcome. I hope you guys have all had the chance to fill in the check-in sheet, and I guess we'll get started. So, as you may already know, this is a quick workshop for the basics of Python, and my name is Varsha, so we'll get started here. So a little bit about myself. I graduated from South Windsor High School in Connecticut this past summer or school year, and I'm a computer science and engineering major at University of Connecticut. I play tennis competitively, and I like cats and dogs, but I think I prefer cats a little bit more. All right. So we're just going to quickly introduce ourselves to Python first. And a lot of you may or may not know what Python is, so I just wanted to touch up on that a little bit. So what is Python? Python is a programming language that lets you work quickly and integrate systems more effectively. So in case anyone's heard about Python before or programmed in Python before, you guys can type it out in the chat. Feel free to do it. Or you can just, unmute and answer. I don't mind. Anything is fine. So yeah, if you just want to type something out, go for it. I'll just keep reading what I have on my slide for now. So Python is an interpreted, object-oriented, high-level programming language with dynamic semantics. Its high-level built-in data structures combined with dynamic typing and dynamic binding make it very attractive for rapid application development, as well as for use of a scripting or glue language to connect existing components together. So Python's simple, easy to learn syntax emphasizes readability and therefore reduces the cost of program maintenance. Python supports modules and packages, which encourages program modularity and code reuse. The Python interpreter and the extensive standard library are available in the source or binary form without charge for all major platforms and can be freely distributed. All right, yeah, so if you've never worked with Python before, that's totally fine. Today we're just gonna take it like one step at a time, start off with things very basic. I will show you some of my code, which has a little bit more complex structures, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. Does anyone have any questions at this point? At any time, just feel free to just pop it in the chat. All right, seeing none. All right, so the introduction. So what are the things that Python can do? Python can be used on a server to create web applications. It can also be used alongside software to create workflow. So a lot of this terminology may be new to you. If you've programmed in any other languages before, maybe you'll understand what a lot of this is, but pretty much like you can use it to create websites, you can use workflow, you can connect to database systems, which helps you to like read and modify files. So let's say there's a file that's got a lot of data on it, and you're trying to extract that data in a format that's easy to read for the user. Python can be very useful for that. It can be used to handle big data and perform complex mathematics. You'll see that maybe today, depending on how much time we have in the end. And Python can be used for rapid prototyping or for production-ready software development. So Python, I'm not going to say it's similar to HTML because I have programmed in both. HTML has different structures and different semantics that it uses. In ways, it can be used alongside HTML to enhance a web application. But I'm not going to say it's similar because it has its own pros and cons and its own methods of doing things. So for example, just the whole syntax, like you don't have if statements in HTML and you get like conditional statements going on in Python. If you've programmed in Java, Scheme, which the language you would use is R5S5, you've definitely seen a lot of similar things, but I'm definitely going to say that I wouldn't assume that Python would be similar to HTML. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. All right. So the reason why we choose Python is because Python works on different platforms. So Windows, such as my computer, Mac, Apple's, Linux, Raspberry Pi, and etc. Raspberry Pi, so I was part of my robotics team in my high school, and we used that Raspberry Pi board for our robot as part of FIRST Robotics. And I can tell you that's mainly the reason why our robot worked. Python has a simple syntax similar to English language. So this is what I was trying to allude to. Even if you've never done any programming, Python is the best place to get started because it's very easy to read. Like if I showed you a whole bunch of code without giving you any syntax or any content, you would still be able to identify a lot of the key components as to what the program is alluding to or what it's trying to do. Python has a syntax that allows developers to write programs with fewer lines than some other programming languages. So I can definitely attest to this. And if you've heard of Java, it's just way more lines in Python. C++, Ruby, a lot of these things. And Python is very simple. It definitely does not involve that much complexity. Python runs on an interpreter system, meaning that code can be executed as soon as it is written. This means that prototyping can be very quick. Again, I keep going back to Java, but so in Java, what you have to do is you have to type it out, you have to have a runner, and then that's the only way you can test your code using test cases. But Python doesn't need that. It's like if you were to type 3 + 4 and just press run, I will show you what I mean. But if you were to write 3 + 4 and just press run, it will work. It's very simple. And the code just gets outputted at the bottom in a different console, but it's not as difficult. So Python can be treated in a procedural way, an object-oriented way, or a functional way. You may or may not understand what that means, but object-oriented design is like you have an idea and like you're trying to make an object, such as you can create shapes. Other languages that do this are Java. Functional ways, so actually like Scheme, which the language you use is R5S5, is functional programming. So Python is very versatile in the ways that you can utilize it. All right. All right, so let's get into learning Python programming for the beginner. So we're just going to start off on a very low level. All right. The first thing is the tools. Now, you don't have to do this. There are multiple ways of just going around this. You can use PyCharm, which is a computer program, and there's a couple steps involved with it, so I wouldn't jump ahead. You don't really have to worry about it. Honestly, like you could just type this code up in your notepad on the computer, or even write it down. And we're not going to get into anything that's too obscure. So you can do it on PyCharm, or you can use Rappel. I don't know if you guys have used Rappel before, if you have any accounts, but if you do, all you have to do is select Python as your language and you can start working. In PyCharm, it gets a little bit more complicated in terms of downloading and everything, but to give you an, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like Rappel it is completely fine. It's actually recommended. So if you just want to go ahead with Rappel, that's totally fine. It's regardless of which platform you use, Python code will look the same. I mean, the color coding will be a little bit different, but it's nothing to worry about. It's going to be the same code, same type of indentation, same syntax. All right. So PyCharm is an integrated development environment that uses used in computer programming, specifically for the Python language. It is developed by the Czech company JetBrains. All right. Okay. Any questions? If you want to download PyCharm, that's totally fine. Only thing is you will have to download Python from the python.org website. So the way you go about it is you go to python.org and then you're going to be clicking on the downloads link that pops up in the first web page. Once you click that, you will get download the latest version for Windows. So I decided to just show this screen because I use Windows and all I had to do was press that button. If you use Mac or any other like Linux or anything, you can definitely just choose the different OS system, all right? And just make sure to download it as the same like size as your computer can handle. Like my computer is 64 bits, so I downloaded 64. Generally, if you have a Windows that's new-ish, this button should be sufficient enough. All right. Okay. And if you're using repel.it, you will not need to do any of this. All you need to do is type repl.it in your browser and just create an account, and that's the way you can get started. All right, so this is just some simple code for warm-up purposes, and I just wanted to show you this just to show what outputs look like, what simple code would look like. So if you're looking at this first one here, let me get a laser pointer. If you're looking at this print hello world command, right? Just looking at this first line. It says print, and then it's got a parenthesis, an opening quotation mark, hello, comma, world, exclamation mark, close quotation, and close parenthesis. What that is, so there's no spaces between the parentheses or the quotes or anything. There is a space inside, but whatever you have inside quotation marks is going to be a string. You may or may not have heard of strings. Strings are just text that when you print a string, for example, it's going to be printed exactly how it is. So you see that I'm calling a print method. And inside, so I have parentheses following the keyword print. And I have quotations. I'm typing hello, comma, world, exclamation mark. And then I'm also closing everything off. What this command will do is in a console, it will output hello, comma, world, exclamation mark. Why? Because I told the print command to take whatever's inside the parentheses and just plop it onto the screen as it is. So I'm in the chat window. I'm just going to type out what that code is just so you guys can have it. Print hello. Oops, my bad. Hello, comma, world, exclamation mark. All right. So the second message you will see from me is the command that I have on my screen. If you take this command, you run it on repel, anything, it will output hello, comma, world, exclamation mark as is. And so as I said, the print method is used to display something to the screen. And inside the parentheses is whatever we want to print. And as I was saying earlier, the quotes are the strings. So string is a type of data, and the text will print as is. Now let me show you something interesting. So I'm going to open up my PyCharm. All right. So when you download PyCharm and everything, this is what the screen will look like. You will have, I just have extra tabs open. You won't have any of that. It's whatever you want. I have my previous code. So, and also if you can't see anything at any time, just let me know because I cannot tell what you see on your end. All right. So at any time, just feel free to interrupt and just go for it. So let's type print. All right. And you see, I've only typed one set of parentheses, but the closing parenthesis gets put in automatically for me. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay, maybe not, I don't know. All right, maybe I don't know how to do this one, but that's okay. I believe you guys can all see this. So as I was saying, I'm going to type the keyword print. All right, and after typing that, I kind of just pause and I see all sorts of these things appear. You don't have to worry. Those are just showing you what built-in functions the print method comes with. Now you're going to type an opening parenthesis, and it should follow with a closing parenthesis automatically. If not, no big deal. You just type it out yourself. Inside those parentheses, I'm going to put a quotation mark. And as you see, my computer automatically put one for me. Inside those quotation marks, I'm going to type hello, comma, space, world, exclamation mark. All right. So you want to make sure that you're saving your file. Oh, this ran my other file. 1 second, sorry. Sorry, my computer just gave a little bit of a issue over here. All right. Okay, should be all set. Can you guys see my screen? If not, no worries, but like if you can, just
Yeah, we can.
All right, awesome, thanks. So I'm going to run this whack file. All right, and all I have to do is I have to select the file name, which is whack.py, and I press this button, run. Another way to do this is you can go to run here, and let's say you have another file open that it's run in the past. You will click run, and you can choose which file you want it to run. All right, and I see down here it outputs hello comma world. All of this is just showing the file location on my computer, nothing for you to worry about. And this over here just shows you that, okay, the program is done running. All right, and every time you run, this console gets updated. Okay, there's multiple ways to run your program. It's whatever suits you best. So I want you guys to take a moment, either type this on a piece of paper or on notes, write it down on a piece of paper, just have it somewhere, type it in Rappel, whatever you want. Just want to make sure you guys have this. All right. Let me go back to my presentation. You will see it here as well, all right? So I have print and the hello world. Now the next thing is we want to know how to print basic shapes on our computer. All right, so you can print triangles. And it's not a legit triangle as you would expect, but it's kind of like how you learn to draw using Python. What you're going to do is you're pretty much going to utilize that print command multiple times, and you're just going to format your code because, you know, whatever is inside these quotation marks gets printed out as is, right? So we just want to make sure that everything lines up. So you can see this kind of takes the shape of a triangle, right? And this was the output for print, and the output for printing a triangle will be something like this. All right, so I'm going to go back to my PyCharm. I have the code for this in another file, so I'm just going to copy it from there. All right. So this is what simple code will look like. It's nothing other than, this one only has 4 print commands, but I mean, it's totally fine if you want to just make it different. I can put this in the chat just so you guys have it. It does look very weirdly formatted when you have it typed out, but if you paste it on Rappel, notepads or something, it will look much better, trust me. All right, so I've put it out in the chat for you guys to just have. You can run this code. All right, and as you see, since I didn't tell it not to print hello world, my computer printed hello world, but then also printed this triangle shape that I was trying to get. You're probably wondering why this drawing a triangle didn't print. Well, it's a comment. There is a tool in Python which is called commenting. I will discuss this in a few slides, but it's another way for you to label any notes on your files or anything like that. Like when you're doing math, not everything gets put in, right? Sometimes you will take notes and you will say, okay, maybe for the calculator, I need to follow these instructions to utilize this tool. Well, these are kind of like instructions for yourself. And let's say someone's looking at your code in the future. Instead of them having to infer about what this is, these comments help them understand, oh, that's what this program does. All it is drawing a triangle. All right. So when you run this code where you have print hello world, don't worry about the commenting so much just yet. I will explain that in just a bit. All right. So PyCharm actually is the IDE. Python you download that allows your computer to run Python, and then you download PyCharm separately. There's also many tutorials you can find on YouTube. I just didn't want to spend too much time today since we only have 30 minutes. All right. It just would have taken too much time out of our small session for today. Does that clarify your question? You can just let me know. All right. So once we've run this, all right, cool. All right. So you guys should have the code for this. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. All right. So let's just quickly talk about indentation. I don't want to take too much time out of this, but if you skip any indentations in Python, you will get a syntax error. This is something you have to be very watchful of because the number of spaces is up to you as a programmer, but it must be at least one. So you must at least press the spacebar once. What my tip would be, just when you go to indent, just press the tab button. It just makes life easier. It puts in 4 automatic spaces. It's all good. You must use the same number of spaces in the same block of code. Otherwise, Python will give you an error. So you have these examples, right? So on the left side, you will see good examples. On the right side, you will see bad examples. On the left side, you see we're running an if statement. Don't worry about what this means, but you guys can probably tell, right? Like if you haven't done any Python programming, it says if 5 is greater than 2, do this, right? It's very simple. Python has a very simple syntax. So it says if 5 is greater than 2, well, that's true. That statement passes. And if that statement is true, whatever is indented runs. So it says if 5 is greater than 2, print this string that says 5 is greater than 2. So your output will literally look like, all right, this pen tool is not working. Okay, there we go. So your output will literally print this much section of your code. Wow, I could not draw a straight line. Anyways, so now another good example is, now there's 2 tabs, right? You see a tab here, you see some spaces, but on the second example, you see 1 and you see two sets of spaces. As I said, the number of spaces is up to you, but it must be at least 1. So what they did was they said print 5 is greater than 2. Same exact code, just extra indentation. Now the poor examples come in here. It says if 5 is greater than 2, there's nothing indented, right? What that's going to do is it's going to give out a syntax error. Print is not indented there. It's on the same exact level as the if statement. So the if statement, you're pretty much saying if the statement is true, don't do anything. Well, that's not what if statements are for, right? You would have to have an indentation on this print statement, even if it's just a space. The reason why this example is wrong is because it says if 5 is greater than 2, print that, but then it puts another set of indentation. This extra set of indentation is very bad. When you have a set of code in Python, everything has to have that same level. So essentially this red part right here, all of this red part should not be there. They should take this print and have it on the same level as this print statement. Does that make sense? If not, please let me know. All right, cool. Let me change my laser pointer. Awesome. All right. So now we're just going to get into variables in Python real quick. And you see this isn't very complex stuff. This is all low level. It's just because it's the basics of Python. In Python, variables are created when you assign a value to it. So an example of a variable creation in Python, you can literally say x equals 5, x 1 equals 1, and 5. What that's going to do is anywhere in your program where you call x stands for 5. So rather than typing a 5 every time, you can leave it as x. In this second example, what you see is y equals the string hello world. What this does is instead of having to type hello world every time, it gives you that value. So y literally holds the value for hello world. Okay, so like for example, you could have done a print statement. I'll put it out in the chat. You could have done a print statement that's a print y once you've declared this y value, which would be the same as print hello comma world. And this is really crucial in computers because everything is stored, right, in bits. And this y, if you keep reusing that set hello world, that's going to eat up so many more bits / bytes rather than just calling that variable y. Okay? All right. And Python has no command for declaring a variable. So if you've worked in other languages such as Java, you'll see it says string y equals hello world, or int x equals 5. No, none of that. And also there's no semicolons, which is one of the main reasons why people like Python so much. You don't have to worry about any semicolons missing on lines. All right, let me move on. Commenting, as I was telling you, this is green, but on my IDE, it was gray. It's just a hashtag, and then you say, this is a comment. All right, that's for single line comments. If your comment ends up going multiple lines, you can use quotation marks, but you can also look more into that later. Right now, all we need to worry about is the single line commenting. All right. So quickly, I want to just do this exercise. Fill in the blank to display an output of hello world. How will I get my computer to print hello, world onto my screen? What do I need to have in this box? You can unmute, you can type in the chat. Awesome, exactly. We will say print and then the hello world. Great. All right, let's move on. So I don't know if we have enough time to just completely understand, but I will go over it. If any of you have to leave, please feel free. Don't want to hold anyone back. Yeah, printf is different. Okay, so user input. The input method allows you to ask the user for any input. So for example, if you want to find out what the user's name is, so let's say I'm playing a game, right? And sometimes the games will say, okay, what's your name? They're pretty much calling that input function to you. They will say input, in quotations, enter your name. Whatever goes inside parentheses of the input methods will be instructions for the user. So let's say this code runs. It says name equals input, enter your name. Well, my name is Varsha, so I'm going to type Varsha, and it's going to store Varsha as a string in that name variable. Okay? This would be the same as name equals, in quotations, Varsha, but that user's name may change depending on who's playing, right? So you can't just always do the same thing. It will update every time you run your program. Age equals input, enter your age. Now, age is a number. So if you're telling them to enter it as a number, you just have to clarify that. And let's move on. There is an example of creating a basic calculator, and I will show you the code for this really quickly. I really don't want to hold anyone back. All right. So in my other code, oops, not that one. I have my code, right? And I have my comment, basic calculator. And what I've done is I've created two variables, num1 and num2. My first one is I'm asking the user for an input, enter a number. And then I'm creating another variable where I ask the user for another input, enter another number. Okay. What I do is I finally create a third variable called result. And I pretty much add both of them to get an output that would be the sum of the two numbers that the user provides me with. So let's run this program first. Here you see it says enter a number. All right, let me type 4. Enter another number, 16, two of my favorite numbers. It results 20.0. Now you don't have to worry about 20.0 versus 20. It's the same thing. The reason why it comes out as 20.0 is because we used a float method. And floats, what they do is they take any variable type and convert it to a number. All user inputs come as strings. Now you can't add two strings together. When you add two strings together, it will literally put that first string with the second. So if I just got rid of these floats, it would literally put my answer as 416 because that's concatenating. That's called putting two strings together. That's not what we wanted. We wanted the sum of the two numbers. So we converted those user inputs into floats. And then we printed the result variable, and that's how I got 20. Does this make sense? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, let me quickly go back to my slideshow. Okay. And so I don't know if we have enough time. If anyone wants to just hang back for another 5 minutes to look at other code I have, which is a little bit more complicated, you can do that. or you are free to go. Thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know. What I'll do is I'll pop my email address, or you can like whatever you want. You can type it here, but I'll pop my email address in the chat window. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. All right, so I'll just take you back to my PyCharm. I'm just going to erase all of this code because it's just going to get complicated. You're welcome. All right, so from this, what I want to do is I want to just show you what complicated calculator code would kind of look like. Let's see if I can find it. Awesome, here we go. So right now what we did was we created a calculator that pretty much was only capable of adding things, right? It could not subtract, it couldn't multiply. So here's my other code and I'm gonna run it. It says enter a number. All right, 4, enter an operator. Let's say I want to multiply two numbers together. So I'm gonna put the multiplication operator. All right, I'm gonna press enter another number. 4 again, why not? And it outputs 16. So what that my code here, what it does is it asks for a number, converts it to a float, stores it. It asks for an operator, all right, and it stores it in a variable, and it does again with another number. Now here I'm running if statements where I'm checking if the operator is equal to. When you check if something is equal to another value, you have to use these double equal signs, okay? Now, you don't have to understand this. This is just how any complicated calculator work would. So let's say I make a larger number, 5. Let's make this 5 million. All right, enter an operator, division. All right, enter another number. Let's say 250. All right, so it outputs 20,000, which is correct. All right, let me just show one more example and then I will definitely let you all go. All right, let's see. All right, so we can build a guessing game. Oh, I see some people are joining right now. So let's say we have code for a guessing game. Let me pull this up. Guess the secret word. Interesting. So I don't know. Let me show you this. The secret word I have right now is giraffe. Okay, let me say something else. And there are 5 chances for you to guess it correct. Okay. Guess the secret word, I don't know, lion. Nope, it's wrong. Guess again. Tiger. Nope, guess the secret word again. All right, let's say I want to say giraffe now. Maybe I get it somehow. You win. It outputs you win. What my code does is it checks if the secret word is the same as your guess. Great, it outputs you win. If it's not, it subtracts 1 from the guess limit until you get to 0. As soon as you get to 0, your code will end. All right. So these were just some of the examples that I wanted to show you guys. And if you have any questions, definitely please reach out to me. You can stay back and ask questions, or you can email me as I sent out my email address earlier. Other than that, you guys are all free to go. Thank you so much for joining in. Have a great day. Or
thank you. Have a good one.
Rest of the day. Thank you. Yep, you're welcome. You're welcome.